All right, so number 4, we will talk about how data centers do affect honeybees in one way. There are many ways, but in this one way. And we will also, number 10 is probably the biggest myth that is out there as far as people and their understanding of honeybees and what they are. So stick around and let's learn together. Hey, good morning. This is Clint Baker, Hillbilly, Hippie, Honeybees, West Virginia's premium honey. And just out here sitting this morning enjoying coffee out of my new coffee cup. I had broke my favorite coffee cup handle, and so my wonderful cousin and husband from Waco, Texas bought me a new coffee mug, and I'm trying it out this morning. It's pretty cool. Again, it looks like honeycomb with honey dripping off of it and honeybees on it. So appropriate, right, for a new beekeeper. But I was sitting out here thinking about maybe some of the things that you hear a lot when it comes to non-beekeepers and even sometimes new beekeepers knowing or asking questions or saying things about beekeeping that may not necessarily be true, or may have been proven that it was not true and it's still out there. So I think over the next few videos, at least 2 videos, I'm going to go over some myths or some things that have been proven wrong when it comes to beekeeping, honeybees, things of that nature, right? And so let's follow along here and see what we got as we drink some coffee this morning and sit out here beside this wonderful sound of the fountain behind me going. For those of you that don't know, this is my son's memorial garden, and he passed away, and this is his memorial garden, and just sitting out here enjoying that and listening to the birds and the bees and drinking my coffee. All right, so number 1, honeybees die after every sting. If they're stinging a human or a mammal, that's probably going to be true because they have barbed stingers where other bees do not have barbed stingers. And with those barbed stingers, the stinger goes into the skin or the hide, and as they try to pull away, those barbs get stuck and it rips their stinging sac out, and then they do die from that. But they can sting other bees or other things, with a harder shell like that, and can be able to withstand that, and they can sting many, many times and not die. And that's part of their defense mechanism towards that. So it is a partial truth. Yes, if they're stinging mammals, which are humans, so forth and so on, they will usually die. But if they're stinging other insects multiple times, they can do that without dying. So that's the facts about, do bees die once they're stung? All right, so number 2, honey is bee poop or bee vomit. Okay, so honey is a processed nectar. All right, they regurgitate it from what's called the honey stomach. Honeybees have 2 stomachs. They have one for as they go out and they collect the nectar, that they put that in. Yes, it does collect some enzymes inside there, which likely starts the honey preservation process. And then they have a digestive stomach. So it's not regurgitated out of their digestive stomach, it's regurgitated out of their honey stomach to one another. And as they pass that from bee to bee, guess what? That is putting more enzymes into the nectar. And as they fill the cells and they start to fan their wings and they start to dehydrate, if you will, the honey down to its, anywhere between 16 and 18% is where they try to get it to. Sometimes it's a little lower, sometimes it's a little higher, and then we've got to throw fans on it when we get it into the honey rooms. But it is not honey poop, and it is not bee vomit. Okay, so honey is not bee poop and honey is not bee vomit. They do have 2 stomachs. One is their honey stomach and one is their digestive stomach. So again, that's not a truth, that's a myth. All right, so number 3. So number 3 is the queen is the biggest, strongest in the hive and she rules the hive. Well, this is false. A bee is a democracy, or a beehive is a democracy, and they do, all the actual worker bees tell the queen bee what to do. She is larger. She's the largest bee in there for the most of the time, right? But she relies entirely on the rest of the workers to feed her, groom her, protect her, tell her when to lay eggs, tell her when to not lay eggs, tell her when to lay drone eggs, so forth and so on. So while she is the biggest bee in there, she does not rule the hive. Again, there's a good book out there. It's called Honeybee Democracy. Very good book to read. It's a little, I don't know. It was smarter than for me to read, I'll tell you that much. But it was a lot of good information on how the hives work, how they communicate, and all those different things. So I would recommend that to you, to get that and read that and see. Queen's main job is to do what? Is to lay eggs. She can lay anywhere from, during the winter months, a handful of eggs a day to keep the population alive. In the summertime, depending on if there's a good flow going or not, it can be anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 eggs. It just depends on the time of the year. But that's her main objective, and the worker bees tell her when to do that and so forth. So ultimately, the workers also decide when to replace the queen. If she's not living up to her fertility, her pheromones, if she's not producing a good, strong pheromone for the hive, so that's when they decide, do we need to replace her? Do we need to swarm? What is it that we need to do with the queen? So yes, she is the largest bee in there, but she is not the ruler of the roost, if you will. All right, number 4. You can save bees by keeping one beehive. All right, so we're gonna get a little bit in depth here, and I'll try not to rabbit trail on this one, okay? Because this could go many different ways. Keeping bees manages the pollinator or the honeybee population. You can help with that, right? But the biggest area to help save the bees is conserving the natural habitat. What scares me is when I see people's lawns that are so green and pristine. To a honeybee and other pollinators, that looks like a desert, the Sahara Desert. Like, to them, there is no nutrition in there at all. There's no nectar, there's no pollen, very little water unless there's dew on it. So keeping a pristine, green, manicured lawn, no good. People who you see that are out there constantly mowing these 5-6 acre yards daily, and you don't see any white clover anywhere. That's a natural habitat that would help preserve, protect, and improve the populations of all pollinators. Seeing all these data centers pop in, that's lots of foraging that they are mowing down. Okay, even not just the data centers, but the big factories that you see coming into these fields or into these forest land areas. Here in West Virginia, we have data centers coming in, and I don't like it. I won't go down that rabbit trail today, but a lot of it has to do with they're cutting down every tree out there and every bush out there, and now our bees don't have anywhere to go forage in that area. And you're talking acres and acres and acres and acres. So if you're truly wanting to help save the bees, okay, you're going to help us preserve all the native natural habitats. And so yes, we do have habitat in our area that's not native that the bees like and love. That's great. But the more you can do to preserve the native grasses, the native flowers, the native trees, the native bushes of your area here in West Virginia, just look up native trees and bushes of West Virginia. Go out and start planting those. Native wildflowers of West Virginia. Get you a small garden starting there. Little gardens can help. My neighbor across the street, I noticed this year she planted a lot of native flowers out in front of her house, and she's out there every day looking at the honeybees saying, hey, come look at this. So it doesn't have to be huge. I will say that honeybees go to the larger areas, but it doesn't have to be used or huge. And also, if you're specifically looking to help with honeybees, look up what they can get into. For example, they can get into white clover because their tongues are long enough, but they can't get nectar out of the like the crimson clovers and things of that nature. So look at what, if depending on what you're wanting to go for. I'm an advocate for both pollinators and all in general, not just honeybees, because I think they work hand in hand together. So again, can you save all the pollinators by keeping one honeybee hive? Well, it would be like saying, I'm going to keep one chicken house, but I'm not going to feed them. Okay, I'm not going to give them the environment that they need to live healthy and prosperous in. So that's what you need to think about when that question's thrown out to you. All right, think about the environment. Work to help us fix the environment, and those are the things that we need to do. Okay. All right, so number 5, and this one I hear quite often, or get asked the question, do honeybees hibernate in the winter like everything else? No. Honeybees stay very active during the winter. They have to keep their cluster. What they do is they cluster up around the brood and the queen to keep it at a level temperature. Let's just say 95 degrees, all right, in that range. And what they do is when they cluster, they vibrate, shake, shiver to create and generate all that heat that they need to keep the inside of that colony at that particular temperature. So they don't hibernate. And as the winter goes on and the food sources move up in the hive, they move up with it. Or the cluster moves up with the food. And so by the end of the season, that's why winter season, that's why you see most of your bees up top. They do rotate in and out to give each other a rest. The ones that are inside keeping it hot rotate to the outside. You can almost watch that if you could see it, in person. You can almost see them rotating in and out as they get tired to come outside and rest a little bit. Do bees sleep? Some say yes for little teeny weeny naps. Some say no. That's up in the air on my part. I'm not that scientific on things, okay? But they do not hibernate in the winter. They are constantly working inside the hive, feeding, taking care of the queen, taking care of the brood, keeping the temperature of the hive or the colony up to that, let's say, 95 degree mark in that area. Keeping intruders out. They still do all those things, but the majority of their job during the winter is to keep the hive warm, the temperature regulated, and to keep the queen and the brood fed. And they do that in a cluster. So honeybees do not hibernate in the winter. Okay, so number 6, I can buy honey cheaper in the big box stores. Well, sure can. That is truth. But are you getting honey? Most of the stuff in the big box store, just flip it over and read the back of the label. 1, where's it sourced from? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from your local area here, just let's say here in West Virginia or Tennessee or California, wherever you live at? Australia, wherever you live at? Maybe in England? I'm sorry, that's Dixie. She's mouthy this morning. But, or is it coming from your local area? Look back there, it'll say a product of, and it may say Mexico, China, Argentina, okay? It may say multiple places. So how are they quality controlling that? They can't, okay? We have very few regulations on honey, especially here in the United States. Most of the time, a lot of honey gets shipped to China, if you will. They ship it to, let's say, Taiwan, where they have way less regulations, and then they throw it all together in one big batch, barrel it up, and then send it back and sell it back to us or other countries or whatever it may be. But look on the back of that. Where's it from? Also, they do. Why is it so clear? Why has it been sitting on the shelf for so many months and it's not crystallizing? Well, they've likely pasteurized it. That means they've heated it up hot enough to kill all the enzymes inside of the bottle, or inside of the, at that time, maybe vat, whatever it may be, okay? And so they've done that, and they've pasteurized it so that you don't have the enzymes in there anymore, the crystallization's not going to happen, and all those different things. So do you want honey for health benefits or just for taste? And to me, I've tasted it, it's nasty tasting. Or do you want to pay a little bit extra and have a good, healthy, good tasting honey that you know have all the health benefits in it that you want, correct? So then the next thing that they will do to it is they will bastardize it, what I say, by putting in high fructose corn syrup, mixing it in, whatever it may be, maybe even some natural coloring to be able to make the coloring consistent with their label. I'm not saying all of them do that, all right? I know that there are some big folks in the area, sorry, I had a skeeter, that will bottle and sell, but you got to be careful with those, all right? And just look at them, do your research before you start buying. So can you buy honey cheaper in the big box stores? You sure can. But like we always say, you need to know your local beekeeper and buy it directly from them. One, you're supporting them. Two, you're going to help us be able to push things to get regulated a little bit quicker. All right. All right. So number 7, smoke calms bees because it makes them sleepy. Boy, I wish, because there's sometimes whenever they're a little hot, spicy, and whatever out there, a little angry at you, I wish they were more sleepy and all, but that's not really the case. Reality is smoke interrupts their alarm pheromones. It encourages the bees to fill up on honey because they think there's a forest fire around and they may have to evacuate their hive and set up housekeeping someplace else. So basically, that's what it does. It does not make them sleepy. Can you smoke them too much? I believe so, yes. But at the end of the day, smoke does not make the honeybees sleepy. It just interrupts, again, their alarm pheromones for, hey, there's somebody in the hive or something in the hive, and we need to get out here and attack it. And then it also encourages them to fill up on honey because of a possibility of a forest fire. So number eight, honeybees pollinate everything. They don't. They do not pollinate everything. There are a lot of things in your garden that honeybees do not pollinate. They won't even go into. You need things like your native pollinators, like your bumblebees, your carpenter bees. You need beetles, flies, even what I call from Satan, you need yellow jackets. You need those types of bees, wasps, birds, moths, even bats play a major part in pollinating everything that we do, right? There are so many pollinators in this world, and the honeybee, and we'll get to us here in a little bit, is not one of the biggest parts for North America for being a pollinator. You see all these folks out there selling traps online to kill carpenter bees, okay? There's a very big pollinator. Then you have your mason bees. You have your leaf cutters. There are so many different bees out there that pollinate. And then again, you've got moths, you've got butterflies, you've got birds, you've got all these different pollinators that play different roles for different plants and for different trees. So it's not always the honeybee. I would love for that to be, but it's not always that. So when you think, oh, I planted a garden, for example, and I've got a couple colonies of bees beside it, I'm not saying they're not pollinating anything in your garden, but there are things in your garden that they do not pollinate. And so that's just some things you need to educate yourself on as you're doing these things. That's why a lot of people, believe it or not, plant marigolds around their garden. That's to attract these other pollinators to their garden. So if you're looking to increase your yield in your garden, plant marigolds around. They serve multiple purposes. Plant the sisters plants together so that they will bring in the pollinators to help pollinate the things that you're needing pollinated. So honeybees do not pollinate everything. Do they pollinate a lot? They do, but they don't pollinate everything. Myth number 9, bees fly in a straight line to the flowers. So yes and no. They use the sun as their navigational beacon as far as their GPS and all that, okay? As they do what we call orientation flights to get ready to become forager bees. That's how they set their GPS on knowing where their hive is, okay? But they use polarized light. They use landmarks a lot. And what I mean by landmarks, they use a lot of roadways, a lot of railways, a lot of right-of-ways, a lot of rivers, creeks, things of that nature to navigate by, because it's easy for them to fly up and down and they can understand where they need to come in at. It's kind of cool. We have a bee yard on the river, and you can watch them fly right over the trees to the river and take one way or the other. All right. We also got a bee yard next to the railroad tracks. You can literally sit there and watch them. They'll fly out, they'll fly to the railroad tracks, and they'll either turn left or right up the railroad tracks. So it's pretty cool to watch how bees do navigate. They also communicate, where their food sources are at through what? That's right, the waggle dance. So they use that waggle dance to communicate where it's at, and they tell the bees, okay, so they're very good communicators when it comes to communicating on where are the flowers, where are the poplar trees, where's the sourwood at? And that's where they're going to tell other foragers, hey, this is where you need to go, all right? So bees do try to fly in a straight line, but they use all different forms of different things for navigation to and from, okay? So if they got to fly, say 200 yards down the river, and then they take a turn and 200 yards up the railway, and then they turn back 200 yards up a right-of-way, and then there's their beehive, that's what they're going to do. So kind of in a straight line, but they do use other things to navigate through, just like we do, all right? So that's how they navigate to their nectar sources, and that's how they get back to their hives. Number 10, and probably the most common thing that we hear a lot. Honeybees are native to North America. Okay, so European honeybees were introduced by the settlers in the 1600s when they were coming over, and they were coming to a new land and a new country. And honey and honeybees have been a very big part of agriculture and very, very big part of food source since biblical days, right? I mean, it's been since the beginning of the earth. And it's been proven through, like, you see it in honey jars where they find it in the Egyptian tombs and things of that nature. The Bible talks about honey a lot and honeybees a lot. So there's a lot of scientific truths that show that honey and honeybees go all the way back to, and beekeeping, through the centuries and through the generations. But honeybees are not native to North America. Now, we can get into well, they have found honeybee fossils here in America. Maybe they have. Let's wait and see if that is the truth. We can also get into that the continents used to once be connected. Okay, maybe they were. But as we modern day know it, all right, and as we modern day see North America and the European countries, they are not native to North America. And like I said, as the colonials and those come from Europe to settle here, they brought them with them. And that's how they got here. And then we have kind of, through the centuries and through the generations, we have tried to keep that alive and keep the honeybees here. So that is myth number 10, that the honeybees are native to North America. All right, so they are not. All right, again, I hope that clears up some of the myths that are out there for the non-beekeepers, and even for the young and new beekeepers that are out there, because sometimes we hear a lot of this stuff and it comes from, people who we think are very smart. Sometimes this stuff's been disproven. Sometimes we just don't get the facts straight, right? And with all the AI and all the stuff that's out there today, we need to be careful on where we get this data. All right, so that's what we want to get across here, is make sure you do your research before you believe everything that's out there. If you have any questions, or if you have any thoughts or something you've heard that you don't 100% know about, drop them in the comments below and we'll try to answer them. Also, if you haven't, please like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. And we noticed that there's about, 50% of you that view us every day that haven't even hit the like or subscribe button. So if you'd please do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. All right, well, God bless you, and we love you, and we hope you have a great day.